The lesson in his life is simple. This is a nation that no single ethnic group or privileged economic class owns. It's a country where a person who comes from nowhere can still make a difference. It's a nation where a man who never knew his own birthday, Hamilton was born out of wedlock, can take part in the birth of a new order. He reminds us that immigrants from around the world renew this country in every generation. They breathe new life into what George Washington called the bosom of America. We live at an odd time in history. When the church defends marriage and the family, the unborn child, and the purpose of human sexuality, she is attacked as being too harsh. When she defends immigrant workers and families that are broken by deportation, she is attacked as too soft. And yet the church is neither of these things. Pope John the 23rd, now St. John the 23rd, described the church as the mother and teacher of humanity, a mother who understands and loves the whole human person, from conception to natural death, always, consistently, and everywhere. When it comes to immigration, the church reminds us that in the end, all of us are children of the same loving God that makes us brothers and sisters, despite the borders that separate us. And in arguing over borders to keep people out, we need to be vigilant against erecting those same borders in our hearts. My dear friends, the person who speaks that truth most powerfully is with us today. And I invite the Holy Father, the Son of Immigrants, to share his thoughts with us now. Pope Francis.
Queridos amigos, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Uno de los momentos más destacados
One of the highlights
de mi visita
of my visit
es la presencia aquí
is to be here
en el
to be
Independence Mall,
before Independence Mall,
de nacimiento
the birthplace
de los Estados
of
birthplace of the
the United States of America.
Aquí fueron proclamadas por primera vez
Here
las libertades
were
que definen
defined the freedms
which define this country,
declared for this country.
the
The
Declaration
Declaration of Independence stated that all men and women
fueron creados
were
iguales,
created equal,
que están dotados
that they are
por su creador
given by their
de ciertos derechos inalienables y que los gobiernos existen para proteger y defender esos derechos. Esas palabras siguen resonando e inspirándonos hoy,
inspiring
como lo han hecho con personas de todo el
as
mundo
they have
for peoples throughout the world
por
to
la
fight
libertad,
for the freedom
de acuerdo
to live
con su dignidad.
according to their dignity.
La historia
History
también muestra
also shows
que esta
that
y otras
these
verdades
these
and
deben ser
other truths must be constantly be reaffirmed,
nuevamente asimiladas.
reappropriated and defended.
La historia de esta nación
The history of this nation is also
de un esfuerzo
the tale of a continuous effort lasting up to these days, to embody these high principles in social and political life. We remember the great struggles which ended in the abolition of slavery, the extension of voting rights, the growth of the labor movement, and the gradual efforts to eliminate all kinds of racism and prejudice directed at successive waves of new Americans. This shows that when a country is determined to be true to its founding principles, those basic principles based on respect for human dignity, it is strengthened and renewed. When one country keeps the memory of its roots, it continues growing, it renews, and it continues assimilating new peoples and new individuals that come to it. It helps a lot to remember our past. A people who has memory does not repeat past errors. However, it does look with confidence the challenges of the present and the future. Memory saves a people's soul from whatever or whoever wants to dominate it or use it for their own interests. When individuals and communities are guaranteed the effective exercise of their rights, they are not only free to realize their whole potential, but they also, with that capacity, with work, contribute to the welfare and enrichment of society at large. In this place, which is a symbol of the American model, I would like to reflect together with you on the right to religious freedom. It is a fundamental right which gives shape to the way we interact socially and personally with our neighbors whose religious beliefs may differ from our own. The ideal of dialogue, interfaith dialogue, where all men and women from different traditions, religious traditions, may dialogue without fighting. That is given by liberty. Religious freedom, without doubts, means the right to worship God individually and in togetherness, following the conscience of each of us. But on the other hand, religious freedom also goes together with places of worship and the private sphere of individuals and families, because the religious fact, the religious dimension is not a subculture, it is part of the culture of any nation and any people. Our different religious traditions, serve society mainly by the message they proclaim. They call individuals and communities to worship God, the source of all life, liberty, and happiness. They remind us of the transcendental dimension of human existence and our irreducible freedom in the face of every claim to absolute power. We need to look at history. It's good for us to look at history, especially the history of the past century, to see the atrocities perpetrated by systems which claimed to build one or another earthly paradise, dominating peoples, subjecting them to apparently indisputable principles, and denying them any kind of rights. Our rich religious traditions seek to offer meaning and direction. They have an enduring power to open new horizons, to stimulate thought, to expand the mind and the heart. They call to conversion, reconciliation, concern for the future of society, to self-sacrifice in service of the common good, and compassion for those in need. In the heart of their spiritual mission is the proclamation of the truth and dignity of the human person and all human rights. Our religion and traditions remind us that as human beings we are called to acknowledge another who reveals our relational identity in the face of every effort to impose a uniformity to which the egotism of the powerful, the conformism of the weak, or the ideology of the utopian would seek to impose on us. In a world where different forms of modern tyranny seek to suppress religious freedom, or, as I mentioned before, try to reduce it to a subculture without right to a voice in the public square, or to use religion as a pretext for hatred and brutality, it is imperative that the followers of the various religions join their voices calling for peace, tolerance, respect for the dignity and the rights of others. We live in a world subject to the globalization at a one-dimensional uniformity and seeks to eliminate all differences and traditions in a superficial quest for unity. The religions therefore have the right and the duty to make clear that it is possible to build a society where a healthy pluralism which respects differences and values as such is a precious ally in the commitment to defending human dignity and the path to peace in our troubled world and suffering because of the wars. The Quakers who founded Philadelphia were inspired by a deep evangelical sense of dignity to each individual and for the ideal of a community united by brotherly love. This conviction took them to found a colony which would be a haven for religious freedom and tolerance. That sense of fraternal concern for the dignity of all, especially the weak and the vulnerable, became an essential part of the American spirit. During St. John Paul II's visit to the United States in 1987, paid a moving homage to this, reminding all Americans that the ultimate test of your greatness is the way you treat every human being, but more specifically the weakest and the most defenseless ones. I would seize this opportunity to thank all those who, of whatever religion, have tried to serve the God of peace by building cities of brotherly love, by caring for our neighbors in need, by defending the dignity of God's gift, of the life in all its stages, defending the cause of the poor and the immigrants. Much too often, those most in need from everywhere are unable to be heard. You are their voice, and many of you, men and women, have made their cry heard. In this witness, which frequently encounters powerful resistance, you remind American democracy of the ideals for which it was founded, and that society is weakened every time that injustice might prevail. A moment ago, I spoke to a globalization.
Globalization
Globalization is not bad in itself. On the contrary, the trend to globalize is good. It unites us. What can be bad is the way to do it. If a globalization tries to make everybody even as if it was a sphere, that globalization destroys the richness and the specificities of each person and each people. If a globalization tries to unite everyone, but does so respecting each individual, each person, each richness, each specificity, respecting each people, each richness, each wealth of each specificity, that globalization is good, and it enables us to keep on growing and takes us to peace. I like to use geometry here. If globalization is a sphere where each point is equidistant from the center, it voids, it isn't good. If globalization unites, unifies, where everybody is united, but everybody can keep his or its own identity, it is excellent because the people may grow, and it gives dignity to every man and woman and gives and grants rights. Among us today, there are members of America's large Hispanic population. As well as representatives of recent immigrants to the United States. Thank you for opening the doors. I greet you with not to forget that, like those who came here before you, you bring many gifts to this new nation of yours. Please, do not feel ever ashamed of your traditions. Do not forget the lessons you learned from your elders, which can bring an enrichment to the life of this American land. I repeat, do not be ashamed of what is part of you, central part of you. You are also called to be responsible citizens. You are called to be responsible citizens and to contribute like others with so much resilience did before you, to contribute fruitfully to the life of the communities in which you live. I think in particular of the vibrant faith which so many of you possess in the deep sense of family life and all those other values which you have inherited. By contributing with your gifts, you will not only find your place here, you will also help to renew society from within.
No perder la memoria
Do not
de
forget
lo que pasó aquí
what happened
Do not
here
forget what happened here.
hace más de 2 siglos.
over 2 centuries ago.
No perder la memoria
Do not forget
de aquella declaración
that declaration
que todos los
which
hombres
said that all men and women
fueron creados
were
iguales,
created equally,
están dotados por
to
su
be
creador
equal and given by its creator certain untransferable and unchangeable rights, and that governments exist to protect and defend these rights.
Queridos amigos,
My dear friends,
les doy las gracias
I thank you
por su calurosa
for your warm welcome
y por acompañarme
and for
hoy
being
aquí.
here with me today.
Conservemos la libertad.
Let's keep freedom, protect,
Let us
take care of liberty, liberty of conscience, liberty
La libertad
to
de cada
religious freedom,
persona, de cada familia, de
liberty
cada
of
pueblo.
each person, family, people, which is the one that yields rights.
Cada uno
May this country and
gracias continuamente
each of you
por las muchas
thank for all these blessings and liberties that you enjoy, that you may be able to defend these freedoms, especially the freedom of religion that God has given you. He will bless you all, and please
que recen un poquito por mí.
do pray a little bit for me. Thank you.
And there you have it, just enormous applause. Everyone rising.